What's going on, sim racers? I finally did it. I made the switch after nearly 2 years in virtual reality to give triples a try. And to be honest, I think I'm gonna stick with it, and here's why. On one hand, we've got virtual reality. On the other hand, we've got triple monitors. That seems to be the age-old debate here in the sim racing community on which makes you faster, which works better, which feels better. And now that I spent about 2 years in virtual reality and recently made the switch to triple monitors, I feel like I can give a short discussion here to kind of help you out if you're looking to get into sim racing, which way you want to go. The first big topic that everyone discusses is immersion. And with virtual reality, there is really no way around the way it makes you feel like you're in the car. You're moving, you're looking into the corners. If you're drifting, you're looking at your doors as people are banging up for tandems. There's really nothing that compares to that. Personally, I was just running the Oculus Rift, the CV1, so it wasn't the most high-end virtual reality system, but it still gave a sense of immersion that I can't compare to anything. My biggest gripes with the virtual reality were the effect that you're kind of looking through paper towel rolls. You lose a lot of peripheral. Until they boost up the FOV on these things, I think it's going to be tough to really feel like you're there. The head movement, you're kind of looking with your head instead of with your eyes a lot of times, which is a little bit distracting, but you really feel like you're there. Now, on the other hand, I didn't want to lose that sense of immersion when I set up my triples. So with this, I actually went with triple 43-inch TVs. So it really encompasses the full peripheral view for me. That's really something I didn't want to lose. So I can still kind of look all the way. With my frame of view settings in this, I can actually look fully out my side windows and see completely beside me. But still doesn't feel quite like VR. In VR, I was really looking into corners. I was able to get within inches of walls. Like first week in triples coming out of VR for a race, and that turn one in VR, I could get within inches of that wall. I had my FOV set perfectly, I thought, in triples, but I was still having trouble placing the car as close to the wall because I didn't have that sense of depth. But still, the triples still feel pretty good at this size. Another thing that helps with the immersion is now I can run things like button boxes, things that I can actually look around at, whereas in virtual reality, I'm tied inside that headset. There's nothing else I can interact with. So as far as better times, I still haven't quite caught up to my VR pace. I feel like I'm 99% of the way there, but virtual reality, just being able to feel the movement of the car does add a little bit to that, but I expect in time, my times will about match what they do in VR with my triple screens. The next big topic in the debate is graphics. My computer isn't the best. It's not the worst. It's not the best. It's a pretty mid-grade system there. So in VR, I'm not gonna lie, it looked like I was looking through a fucking potato. The graphics were pretty horrible. It was pretty blurry. I had to run super low settings so I didn't get any stutterings and could get high frame rates. That was one of the big downsides to me in VR was the graphics. In triples are still really graphics intensive, but I could still run a much higher setting on these than I could in VR. Things look crisp, I can run much higher resolutions. That is one of the biggest gains I've had in triples, is it looks so much better, and with the screens this big, it still encompasses a big part of my vision, so I feel like I'm not losing a lot in that regard. Also with the graphics, that kind of ties in, if you do any streaming or anything like that, it is super tough in VR. That is something that we've tried to do in VR, but be able to see people's chat, interact while you've got these goggles just clogging up your whole view, it is really tough. Whereas in triples, you can set as many screens as you want to kind of do anything you want. I was able to get Race Lab apps, overlays, everything to work so much easier in triple screens than I was in VR. Supposedly that stuff does work in VR. Some headsets it gives problems with, Oculus being one of them. So that was another big up for triples, is all the overlays and extras that you could really tie in without much issue. The next big point for me is comfort. That was, honestly, I'm gonna say the biggest driving point in me switching to triples was the comfort. It wasn't bad for me getting used to it. Some people, you get a little bit of VR sickness and you have to build your VR legs to kind of get your stomach up to it. But for me, that was really not an issue. Felt great. The only thing that really fatigued me in VR is the heat. Any race that was more than 45 minutes, I was pouring sweat through my eyeballs. It was unbearable, and getting into endurance racing was something I really was striving for in iRacing, and it was very tough in VR. When we were doing even VRS sprints or trying to run 24 hours, it was almost unbearable in VR. I was just by the end of it pouring in sweat. Much more comfortable, so much airflow through here. I can set up a little fan, I'm super comfy. I can have a drink while I'm racing without trying to lean back and pour it in my mouth while I'm in VR. It is so much more comfortable in triples, and that is the biggest selling point for me, was the comfort. Another thing we're gonna have to talk about is the cost. If any of you guys have watched my channel before, I'm super budget when it comes to everything. So when I got into VR first, I picked up a used Oculus Rift. I wanna say I paid around $200 for it, and it's done me well. But the cost of triples is really gonna vary a lot, depending what you go with. For me, I actually went super budget with the triples as well. I waited for Black Friday. I got 3 43-inch 4K TVs, only $120 each. Still adds up to more than the Oculus did, but that is far less than a lot of people are spending on triples. People are easily getting into the 4 digits. And a lot of people will gripe and say, oh, it's only 60 hertz, you're getting a lot of input lag, it's not gonna be as good of an experience. For me, honestly, since this is kind of a mid-grade rig, I cannot tell the input lag. I'm not gonna lie, I cannot tell the input lag at all on these 60 hertz TVs. Maybe if I was playing something super quick like a first-person shooter, but doing sim racing, I honestly cannot tell the difference. So I feel like for what I got these TVs for, how big they are, how well they run, I only run in 1080p, I'm not trying to push 4K or anything like that. They work great for me. And like I said, a lot of people will disagree with me on that who have some higher end setups. But for what I do and what I use them for, it works great. So you also kind of have to decide what your goals are for your rig. For me now, it is kind of nice that I do still have virtual reality hooked up. So if I do want to hop in and run it, I can. But to be honest, ever since I've got these triples, I have not set up virtual reality. The triples, a last note on that, the biggest note is it takes a lot of fine tuning to get your FOV right. You need to make sure that you measure your eye level, your distance from the screens, the angles of your side screens. If you get that all dialed in, there's a lot of guys, I'll have to drop some links in the description, who have already sorted out the mathematics of it. There's some formulas you can plug in the various distances and it calculates the settings for you. Just so you get everything lined up. You don't want to be having your side screens at a weird angle so nothing connects. That is huge if you're going to try and run consistent lap times, to be able to use these side screens and have them give accurate representations of distance. So with that being said, guys, if you have access to any friends who also sim race, it's also great to be able to try out the different interfaces. Like VR was just something I hopped into because my channel partner Eric, that was something that he ran. I hadn't sim raced at all, and it was an absolute blast. Do I regret it? No, VR is great. It served me well. I've improved a ton as a driver, and I feel like it set a great base for me as a driver. Triples is just something that I think I'm going to progress to because it's way more comfortable. I can get just about the same lap times, and the immersion is pretty close at this size. So if you guys have anything to add to the discussion, feel free to leave a comment below. Let me know, do you guys run VR? Do you run triple screens? Do you even run single screens and do well with that? There's so many options in sim racing. There's so much out there. I'd love to hear what you guys do and any ideas you guys have. So with that, we'll see you in the next one.